Welcome back to the channel. If you've ever dabbled with tools, chances are you've come across both socket wrenches and ratchet wrenches. But do you really know the difference between the two? Sure, they may look pretty similar, but trust me, each tool has its own specific purpose. Whether you're a DIY enthusiast, a seasoned mechanic, or just someone curious about the world of tools, understanding the subtle yet important distinctions between these two can make your work a whole lot easier. In today's video, we're diving into the difference between a socket wrench and a ratchet wrench, two essential tools that have been helping people get the job done for years. Let's talk about that right here on History of Simple Things. To start off, let's break down what a socket wrench is. In its simplest form, a socket wrench is a hand tool designed to tighten or loosen fasteners like nuts and bolts. The defining feature of a socket wrench is the interchangeable sockets that allow you to work with different sizes of fasteners. You might notice that the wrench has a handle with a square drive at the end, which is where you attach the socket. What makes socket wrenches so effective is their versatility. By swapping out different size sockets, you can work on a variety of fasteners with ease. This is particularly helpful when you're dealing with multiple sizes of nuts and bolts, like when working on a car or assembling furniture. The socket wrench's simple design makes it a go-to tool for general tightening and loosening tasks, and its straightforward, reliable function is why it's so widely used. Now let's talk about the ratchet wrench. A ratchet wrench is actually a type of socket wrench, but with a key difference that makes it more efficient in certain situations. The main feature that sets a ratchet wrench apart from a standard socket wrench is the ratcheting mechanism built into the handle. This mechanism allows the user to turn the wrench in one direction while the handle freely moves in the opposite direction, without needing to remove the socket from the fastener each time. This ratcheting feature is what makes the ratchet wrench particularly useful for working in tight spaces. Unlike a traditional socket wrench, where you have to lift the tool off the fastener after each turn and reposition it, the ratchet wrench lets you keep the socket on the fastener, adjusting the handle without taking the tool off. This reduces the amount of time and effort you have to put in, especially when you're dealing with fasteners in awkward positions. Now that we know what each tool is, let's dive into the key differences. The most obvious one, of course, is the ratchet mechanism. While a socket wrench requires you to remove and reposition the tool after each turn, a ratchet wrench's built-in mechanism allows for continuous rotation in one direction. This is a huge advantage when working on long series of bolts or nuts, such as when assembling furniture or working under the hood of a car. The ratchet mechanism works through a set of gears and pawls inside the handle. These gears engage the square drive, which allows the wrench to rotate in one direction while staying stationary in the other. In a standard socket wrench, you're limited by how much room you have to move your hand because you're constantly lifting the tool off the fastener, repositioning, and turning again. The ratchet wrench eliminates this hassle, making it the more efficient option when you're working on a repetitive task. With a ratchet wrench, you can maintain constant pressure and speed, which is a real time saver for projects that involve lots of fasteners. So, when do you use a socket wrench? And when should you grab a ratchet wrench instead? If you're working on something where you have plenty of room and don't need to repeatedly adjust the tool, a socket wrench can still get the job done. It's especially useful for tasks where the fasteners aren't too difficult to reach, and where you don't need to make multiple turns in a row. Think of it as your go-to tool for general purposes. On the other hand, if you're working in tight spaces, like under a car or in a cramped engine bay, or if you're facing a situation where you need to tighten or loosen many fasteners in quick succession, a ratchet wrench is your best bet. The ratchet mechanism allows for continuous, efficient movement without having to reposition the wrench after every turn. The mechanics behind both the socket wrench and the ratchet wrench are actually quite simple, but understanding them can help you appreciate the differences more. A socket wrench, without the ratchet mechanism, relies purely on manual force. The force you apply to the handle is transferred directly to the socket, which then turns the fastener. There's no mechanism in the handle to allow for continuous motion. Instead, it's purely a matter of physical labor. In contrast, the ratchet wrench is a bit more intricate. The handle contains a set of powels and gears that work in tandem with the square drive. When you push the handle in one direction, the powel engages the gear to rotate the square drive. When you pull the handle in the opposite direction, the powel disengages and the gear spins freely, allowing you to reposition the wrench without having to take it off the fastener. This mechanism is what makes the ratchet wrench so much more efficient, especially for tasks that require repetitive motions. Another thing to consider is the durability and size of both tools. Generally speaking, both socket wrenches and ratchet wrenches are built to withstand heavy use. However, the added moving parts in a ratchet wrench mean that it could be more prone to wear and tear over time, especially if it's not maintained properly. The good news is that most modern ratchet wrenches are designed to be very durable, so as long as you're using it for the intended purpose and maintaining it, it should last a long time. In terms of size, socket wrenches tend to be more compact because they don't have the extra mechanism for ratcheting. This can be useful if you need to fit into a very tight space where you might not have enough room for a larger ratchet wrench. However, many ratchet wrenches are designed to be compact as well, so size might not be as big of a concern as it once was. So there you have it. While both socket wrenches and ratchet wrenches serve a similar purpose, the key difference comes down to the ratchet mechanism in the latter. The ratchet wrench offers greater efficiency, especially in tight spaces and repetitive tasks, whereas the socket wrench can be a great tool for more straightforward jobs with less need for continuous motion. Ultimately, choosing the right tool for the job depends on what you're working on and how much space you have to work with. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.